you could be the best guild in the world, and still have a bad raid. I know that might sound strange to think about, but it's absolutely true. Just ask anyone that you play this game with if they've been in a really good guild that had one singular bad raid, and they'll probably say yes. Um, Bad raids, they're kind of like hiccups. They don't discriminate who they prey on. Whether you're young, old, rich, or poor, narcissistic, virtuous, doesn't matter. Um, it can happen to anyone, you know, at many different times. Holy shit, I finally fucking got this thing, and I raid tonight. Let's go. Anyway, back to the video. There's many different reasons that bad raids happen, sorry, and some are avoidable, some are not. And what determines if a guild is good versus if a guild is great is how they deal with bad raids when these things happen. So we before we talk more about bad raids, let's define what is a bad raid. What do you consider a bad raid? So this is going to be different for many different guilds. What a bad raid is, and that's going to be based on where have you currently progressed. If you're progressing, what are some of the expectations set out for the raid and laid beforehand. um, but yeah, this is gonna differ from guild to guild because two guilds are not gonna be the same. Even one guild that has multiple different raid teams, even those two teams are gonna be different, right? To some extent, depending on how many people are in there, if they play different roles and all that. So I think it's pretty unhealthy to say that you had a bad raid because some other raid or some other guild did better than you did. You can cherry pick any other guild, any other raid, and you will always be able to find something that they have better than your run, or they do better, or something they do that you guys don't do. So I don't think this is a very healthy way to determine if you had a bad raid or not, based on if another group, you know, did something better than you did. So so yeah, it doesn't mean that you can't get to that point eventually. Your raid, your guild, your run, it could eventually get good over time, but that's something that you build up towards, It's not something you can just switch or change overnight and just have. So so yeah, think about this example or scenario. Let me give you something to think about. You go to the gym and you see someone lifting really heavy weights. Is this the back-to-back two in a row? There's no way. Holy shit, anyway. I'm a bit stun locked at this fucking RNG. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but yeah, go back to this scenario. You go to the gym, you see someone lifting really heavy weights, and you decide you never really trained or tried to lift weights the way they are, but you decide, you know what, if they can do it, I want to try to do it as well. So you go, you try to lift this really heavy weight that this person's lifting, and you end up straining yourself, and maybe you even get an injury because you tried to do something that you weren't ready for. That it wasn't your time to lift those weights, because again, it takes time, effort, dedication, preparation before you reach to a point where you can do certain things. And it's gonna hurt you in the now if you try to jump or skip steps to get to that point. Now, all you saw was the person lifting the weights. What you didn't see was, or recognize or understand, is that that person probably took months, years even, to build up, train, and prepare to be able to do what you saw them doing, right? So, so yeah, just keep that in mind when you try to compare yourself with other groups, other raids. And the best thing you can do is know what's best for the group you're in. How do we take steps forward, right? So these are some things to think about. Um, yeah, so to go back to what is a bad raid? In my eyes, a bad raid, there's a number of different traits that you attribute to a bad raid. So in my opinion, some of these traits, I'll go over them. Are you having trouble with bosses or mechanics that previously you wouldn't think twice about doing these bosses? Unless there's some heavy RNG factor to the fight. This can usually happen if, maybe one person would do this mechanic every single week. This one guy that showed up, he would just handle it. So you didn't even have to think twice about that this mechanics existed, because you just had someone that did it. And one week he can't make it to raid. So now you end up teaching someone new to do the same mechanic that, you've been handling just fine every single week. And that could be something that leads to reprogressing a boss. So my personal stance and opinion on this is, if your role can do something in a boss fight, then everyone should be expected to be able to do it. So what does that mean? A good example of this is Resuvius in Naxxramas. So the priests mind control an ad, and then they go taunt the boss, and they're like the tanks of that fight because they mind control something that does a tank role. Um, and every priest in the run should be able to do that, even if you aren't assigned to it. So even if you're missing that one person that normally does it, this shouldn't reprogress you or make you have to reprogress the boss, because you have every person of that class or role, you train them to be able to do this thing, and it's going to affect you much less. And the thing with Resuvius, there's also an RNG factor with it. The ads could randomly drop their mind control, and it kind of sucks when that happens, but all you can really do is pick yourself up, go again, try not to be too hard on the priest when it does happen. And I do understand how that could be confusing for other members to be like, oh, we're wiping here, wiping him, what's going on? But sometimes it is RNG, sometimes it is your priest. Just be patient, try to train everyone of that class or role to be able to do that thing, and this is going to be much less of a problem as it would otherwise. Uh, yeah, so one way that I did this personally in my guild is every week, some priest that never MC'd Resu before, I would be like, okay, I want you to be the backup. We'll have the two normal priests doing it, but if one of them drops, or, maybe you go third in the rotation, I want you to just be able to see the mechanics, see what it looks like, feel it out a bit, get some actual experience. And that's one way you can help teach and train more people in the group to be able to do it. I guess you could also say, hey, priest that knows how to do this, could you make a little video or just have a call with these other guys and just, share your screen, go through, make sure they know what's going on, and they're able to do it if they can. Yeah, so that's most on that point. Another trait of bad raids, in my eyes, chain dying and raid leaders that don't care. What does this mean? So the reason I put those two together is because in in my opinion, a good raid leader is going to understand that when someone dies, they need to be rebuffed. And rebuffing something make rebuffing someone, making sure they're good to go after they die, it's gonna help lower the odds that that person dies again, right? Because if you res someone, you don't heal them, you don't buff them, you run into the next pack and they die again, guess what? You are hurting your raid. You're wasting time resing and rebuffing this person. Just try to do it once. Try to maybe slow down the pace a little bit. It is when people start chain dying, that to me that's a really bad raid. Um, Yeah, and oh, my personal pet peeve with this is when I'm in some random pug, like AQ40 or something, and you die to some random, I don't know, AoE, or you got knocked. Something stupid, maybe a mind control and someone kills you and you need rebuffs. Man, on Alliance you have to, if you don't have, people paying attention, you have to beg for kings from the paladin, might, salve, the druid, mark of the wild, the priest for fort, and it's just so frustrating if you die again, have to reconsume and then beg for buffs. I hate that, and personally I think you have a bad raid when people chain die. And one way I've been talking about how to help stop chain dying is make sure someone's fully rebuffed and you aren't, pushing too much that'll end up killing more people. So just recognize when to take a step off the gas pedal and, don't push too hard. Um Oh, another thing, guys, if you disagree with your raid leader, if you think they're going too fast, if you think there's ways for them to improve, I would hope, I would sincerely hope that you have a raid leader that's a human being that you can have a conversation with and be like, hey, during this raid, I think we went a bit too fast here. I think we can do these things better. I think it would help our raid overall if we implemented these things. And I'm not saying in the middle of raid just bring up like, hey, I think we should do this, this, and this as we're pulling. That's not the way to do it, guys. Do it in a good way. Send a message to your raid leader after the raid or before the raid. Put a message in the raid chat or class channel. Um, Share ways that you think can be improved. If you personally experience something, your raid lead might not know that unless you tell them. So I think that's one way to help with chain dying or improving your raid's performance. Um, yeah. Let me see what my other point was. Oh, yeah, another thing is while you can do things to improve the chain dying, um, some things are also unavoidable. So, well, not unavoidable, but not entirely your fault either. So, are the healers healing their proper targets? Are the tanks picking up their mark in time? Are the DPS standing in stupid shit and just dying to nothing, right? These are things that, you know, you can't control everyone, but ways to help improve this is before your raid, make sure everyone is clear on their assignments, they understand, what they're doing, what their role is. And another thing as a raid leader that you can do is it may seem so trivial to be like, hey, don't stand in fire. But remember, this is classic WoW, guys, and people are boomers. They are dad gamers. People will stand in void zones and die to nothing. Every single week you might see that. Well, depending on your run, not every week, but this will happen more often than you think. And it might sound so stupid to be like, hey, take a step to the left. Hey, take a step to the right. Avoid this. Hug this corner. Don't jump. Don't charge. Don't walk around this corner. Stay behind star. As a raid lead, you just have to accept that you need to repeat some very asinine comments over and over and over again because sometimes when you say something one person wasn't listening but the second time you say it then they pick it up and they hear that the second time. So as a raid lead, yeah, it's your job to lead the raid, and some callouts might seem dumb and stupid that you have to make, but maybe test it out a week, try it. Hey, this week I'm gonna call mechanics a little bit more and see if that helps reduce the number of deaths to this mechanic or this type of trash. And it's not easy, guys. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? You'd be the best raid leader in the world if everything was easy. It's gonna be hard, but these are steps you can take to improve your raid and stop the chain dying and overall increase raid performance and not have as many quote unquote bad raids. Um, yeah, so I don't want to stretch this video out too long. I'll just leave with one final point, and this is I would say a super valid point. Was the raid enjoyable, and do you regret attending it? That's one thing I would ask myself. Was this really such a bad raid? If I enjoyed it and I didn't regret attending this raid, and the reason that that is valid, whether you wiped or not, is because there's raids that I've been in that were terrible performance wise. But you know what? It was still enjoyable. How is that? How could you have a terrible performance wise raid, but it was still enjoyable? I can give you some examples. Did you build a Thunder Free for the first time ever as a guild? That second binding drop that you've been waiting months on. Even though it was a 30-man Molten Core, and you were struggling the whole way, but the binding dropped and you guys cheered and you had a great rush of adrenaline, like, hell yeah, we're gonna build a Thunder Free tonight. Even if the performance of that raid was bad, it's still something that I wouldn't give up. That experience, that moment, you can't buy or purchase that. That's just something that you experience playing this game, right? So, is there someone in your guild that's been waiting on Corrupted Ashbringer for, they played in 2005 and they never saw this item once. They played 2019, never got it. Years this person is waiting for the Corrupted Ashbringer to equip it to walk an RP in Scarlet Monastery, and it drops and they win the role. Like, even if you have a bad raid night, things like that can still uplift you. It can still create a good positive experience for your guild, for your raid, for your run. So don't always think that, oh, we wiped on this boss, it was a terrible raid. Oh, we spent 2-3 hours in the run, it was a terrible raid. If something memorable happened, if you had a good experience, if you don't regret going to that raid, maybe it's not as bad as you think it was. You know, yeah, another point, another aspect of this, guys, is did something super hilarious happen in raid? Even a terrible night, like someone said a funny joke, something funny happened with something, these are memories that you just experience playing the game. Doing terrible runs, some of the funniest stuff will happen in there too. And the main point, guys, is try to keep a smile on your face. If you really enjoy the people you play with, if you really think that, you have a community of friends, people that you trust, that you want to play the game with, raids are going to be bad, they're going to be tough, but try to understand too that it's not the end of the world. There's still next week. As long as steps are being made to improve, to get better, to do better, as long as you see that your leadership actually cares, about your voice, your concerns, and they're making steps towards it. Rome wasn't built in a day. Keep keep moving forward, push through it if you genuinely want your guild to succeed. Now, if you've been in a guild for months and you don't see any improvements, people aren't changing, you feel like your voice isn't heard, then absolutely, you can take steps after that to, find a better guild or something. But just remember, one bad raid, one bad night, it is not the end of the world. I griefed my DPS on this week's Tuesday raid in Phoenix. Like, I killed 3 people on the first boss by, messing up something that I've not messed up in like a year maybe. So even you will make mistakes, guys. So no one is immune. Things will happen. Just the way you deal with it, the way you move forward, uh the way you persevere in the face of adversity. That's what's actually going to determine, how good is my guild actually. Uh yeah, anyhow, long rant. Tuesday, 5 p.m. server time, 8 p.m. EST, Whitemane Classic Era Alliance. Discord.gg/Phoenix Classic. Pre-second heal, warriors that can do damage, mages that can press decurs. Peace out till next time.